Good afternoon. And I wanted to thank Benedict and the Bangalore Biz Lit Fest for inviting Vandana and myself here today. I'm going to talk about Vandana's book, OTP Please. And I found it very intriguing, Vandana. Your, not just the title of your book, but the fact that you've chosen to talk about hidden layers of an ecosystem, an e-commerce ecosystem that we all take so much for granted. Was it the extensive research that you did? I believe you spoke to about 5,200 gig workers and various sectors. So did that trigger your thinking? Because this is a sort of hidden part of e-commerce that we don't normally talk about.
Thank you, Malavika. Thank you to Benedict and the Bangalore BizLit Fest for having me here. Gen Z may not remember, but there was a time when we didn't have the word OTP in our vocabulary. And at some point, OTP became, started flooding our phones, and I think that was sort of a watershed phase in our lives, and because it sort of marked the dominance of technology in everyday things, going and hiring a cab, buying groceries, getting your food. More and more OTPs started flooding our phone, the more dependent we started becoming on technology. And that's why I thought that's an easy, relatable phrase. It sort of marks a moment in our social transformation. And when the pandemic happened, I was like everyone else sort of cooped up at home. And in the gated society that I live in Hyderabad, there wasn't any action because it was the pandemic and everybody was, at home. But at the main gate, there was always action. There were these guys wearing these colored clothes and two-wheelers with big, delivery dabbas behind in their two-wheelers, coming into the society, delivering a biryani here, a dress there, no matter what time of day or night. And I kept observing that, and then slowly I started talking to them down, and I used to hang around down and catch them before they go and just chat with them. And then I found that a lot of them are unhappy, and some were okay. They had lost their early jobs and they were happy to get this. And soon I figured that there was a union leader in Hyderabad who was their loudest voice of all the unhappy workers, and I went and spoke to him. And he led me on to Delhi, where some activists were protesting against Amazon, and there was a movement called Make Amazon Pay, and they were doing that, so I went and met them. Then they pointed me to Rajasthan. Rajasthan was significant at that time because in July 2023, the state government was the first to pass an act for gig workers' welfare. And so there was a lot of optimism there that, some things are going to change for workers and all. Then I went to Kerala because Kerala is, hyper aware of worker rights. So I thought it would be interesting to see that. And all of that happened. And that's how I realized that, something is happening transformational in our society, in the way we use technology and in the people who deliver that to us. So it sort of triggered me to explore this more. And then once I spoke to the workers, I realized that workers don't exist in a vacuum. They're there because buyers want stuff. Somebody wants, fried chicken delivered at midnight. Somebody can't go down to get even a packet of bread. So it was important to talk to the customers as well. So then they came into the ambit. And then naturally there are sellers who are selling these products, the retail sellers. There are small restaurants who are delivering the food. And therefore all these cohorts came in. And of course there's the tech platform which ties in everyone together and is holding all these stakeholders. And that's how I envisaged that whole ecosystem.
You mentioned that there were 4 players, right? So each of them is looking for different things. As customers, we look for instant gratification and convenience. The sellers look for reach and sales. the gig workers for a living wage, and the platform for profits. So, based on your extensive research, do you see this as a sustainable relationship? Somehow I'm getting a feeling that it is a little uneasy and non sustainable because of the differing, shall I say, objectives that each of these groups have.
No, you're absolutely right. So they are, it's when it works, it's great, and it does work at fair amount sometimes at least. So the customer wants convenience, and when he gets things fast, when the gig worker gets his living wage, when the technology platform gets its commission, and the seller gets the reach that he's looking for, life is fine. Things are okay. But it's a sort of uneasy truce. It's a sort of it's there's a lot of tension between the actors. So the customer's need for convenience and speed really puts pressure on the gig worker to run and deliver fast, right? The gig worker wants some sort of stability, but the tech platform prioritizes flexibility and cost cutting. Then there are sellers who are expecting scale, but the tech platform suddenly changes the rules and puts new levies on them, and their dreams of reaching far beyond the customer base that they have doesn't really work out. And then, of course, there is the tech platform itself, which is constantly aiming to be profitable. So it is this, I would think that it's more a sort of, it's not a harmonious ecosystem. It's more a constant negotiation between these actors, which is currently sustaining them. And which is why we, in my book, I have said that we need intervention for fairer pay, for more transparency, for responsible pricing, and all of those things to make this ecosystem fairer and sustainable in the long term.
So you talked about the 3 Ps, right? And I want to look at that now. You said privilege, you talked about power, and you talked about a new word which I haven't heard before, which is precarity, right? How do you believe they connect with each other, Vandana? And more importantly, how does it connect with any business, not just a platform, but any business, the other 2 Ps, productivity and profitability? So I'd like you to just spend a minute talking about this.
Okay. So I think I will unpack for the audience the 3 Ps that I had put into the book. So, let's take privilege. We have in Italian there is an idiom which I really love, which is called dolce far niente, which means the sweetness of doing nothing. We as urban customers today need to do pretty much nothing, right? We simply have to tap a few keys on the phone, and all the things which required physical effort, like going and getting a cab, like going to a restaurant to eat, like going to a market to buy things, all of it has just, you don't need to do that anymore. If you order something, somebody comes and delivers it. If you don't like it, someone comes and takes it away. If you want a replacement, someone else comes and gives it to you. And you don't even have to tender exact change or hunt for your wallet. You again flash your phone and it's done. While this may seem normalized to us now, just about even like a dozen years ago, 15 years ago, it was not the norm. So we are in a position of huge privilege and getting all these conveniences at the tap of a button. But behind this privilege, somebody is paying for this, and that is the thousands of workers of the e-commerce system who are at the bottom of the pyramid, who are working some 12 to 14 hours a day, running around in traffic and pollution, and trying to make ends meet. And and there are also thousands of small sellers and small eateries who have all clambered onto these platforms without fully realizing the implications of what it means. And it is all these people, workers, small sellers, all of them live a life of precarity. So that's the second P. And then there is power. Power in this case is held by the tech platform, which has all the information, information is power in today's age. So, all of us must have got those little nudges which say, you had an ice cream last Sunday, do you want to order an ice cream again this Sunday? So they're keeping track of all our behavior, our habits, where we order from, what we like, etc. That information is power. And there's also power they exercise on the workers in terms of, telling them where to go, where your next order is, how much you should pay for it, and, completely monitoring their location, etc. All of that is power. So these are the 3 P's that I had written in the book, but Malavika's complicated it further by adding a couple of more P's, which is productivity
and profitability.
So productivity, again, is not neutral if you think about it. Productivity is decided by the people in power. So who decides that, what is efficient? So when should a worker get his incentive? It is the tech platform which decides, which holds the power of the algorithm and which tells him where to go, monitors how effectively he is working. Also, power is held by the customer, who is a sort of de facto boss for the worker, because through the rating system. So workers are always, we must have all experienced that, terrified of getting a poor rating. So work customers wield power too. So productivity is decided by the people in power. It's not neutral. And profitability is also underwritten by those who are in precarity, by the workers. It is, they are the weakest base of this entire, dazzling digital ecosystem. And they often pay the price for the profitability of the tech platform. And therefore, that's how all those P's stack up. And my book is about the shifting balance of power between all these actors.
And in Bangalore, they lead a very precarious life because all of them drive on the payments, since our roads are so full of potholes and you have to get where they have to in 10 minutes. I like the way you segmented your narrative, and you looked at 9 emotions, which is a very unique way of looking at it, I think. Pleasure, guilt, gratitude, anger, freedom, oppression, anxiety, isolation, and courage. What made you think of this particular structure, Vandana? It's very different from a typical consumer segmentation or a book segmentation for that matter.
That's true. So first, I just wanted to do customers, sellers, and workers, and that would have been fairly straightforward. And I spent a lot of time just writing it like that, in fact. And then somewhere when close to the deadline, when I was supposed to submit this to my editor, I suddenly thought that, after I'd written the whole thing, that this is not the honest way to say it, because I found that there are some experiences which cut across no matter whether you're customer or whether you're worker or seller. So for example, let me give you an example of anxiety. Okay, after I had spoken to a whole lot of people and written out a lot of stuff, I realized that we typically read about passengers in Uber who are anxious, right? We read about a lot of women who say that the driver was weird, and I was like, really, I wanted to press the emergency button, and we read about that a lot. I met these drivers in Delhi who said they are terrified of drunk passengers sitting behind on Friday nights and Saturday nights in their car, because they misbehave, they continue to drink in the car, they tap his shoulder, they refuse to pay, and that driver is experiencing a high level of anxiety, and this is irrespective of gender, whether the passenger is male or female. So, and then I realized that we've always thought of anxiety from the customer's point of view, but here is the driver who's equally anxious. So there are several such emotions which cut across different groups. So, for example, oppression. There's a whole chapter on oppression in which the people in an Amazon warehouse who are working under very oppressive systems, very oppressive rules, where they can go to the washroom only at certain times and they have to finish packing so many things by so much time, etc. But oppression is also felt by the small seller on Amazon. So this we're talking about, that's a worker, there's a seller. So the seller is, he finds that his name is nowhere in the listing of when people are, searching for a particular product. He finds that he's not there on the top list at all, and he doesn't know why. And then there are sellers who have been, who suddenly find that they have new taxes and new levies and new commissions have been charged, which were not there the previous month. And they have no voice, they have nobody to talk to, because, even the grievance redressal is by a bot or, just through email, and they feel oppressed. So oppression is an emotion that cuts across. So I literally rewrote the entire manuscript and did it like this, because I thought it was the honest way to talk about
Look at it.
And so that was basically the thing. And also here I must tell you that also I first was writing only about India, but as a development sector professional, this region, South Asian region, is often seen as one unit because of commonalities in history, in development issues, etc. So I started reading up about the digital economy's growth in those neighboring countries, and I found that though the market may be small, but the vibrance of the space was very real. And there is, in Nepal, for instance, there are food delivery apps which are open like every 2 months. Many of them shut down, many of them open. But and among the customers, there's huge interest in using apps and, doing the same thing that our urban middle class does in India. So, which is why I increased the ambit to include those countries.
Okay. Before I open it up to questions, I just want you to take 30 seconds, Vandana, to tell us how you see this whole ecosystem evolving. You've done so much research, so just tell the audience in 30 seconds where you see it going.
Okay, so in 30 seconds, it's in its current state, it is thriving, but it is not a harmonious balance, and unless certain interventions are done in terms of by the government, in terms of regulating the sector towards fairer pay for workers, towards more transparent policies, those kind of interventions, then by the platform itself to innovate so that they can, arrive at a better level playing field. By consumers, for example, to be more aware. For example, sustainability, if you think about it, about 20 years ago, 25 years ago, consumers weren't caring about sustainability, but they're willing to pay now for organic products, for products that are done more with more sensitivity. Akshay Kalpa, I think, is an example. So, these three things, government intervention, consumer awareness, and innovation by the tech platform for fairer setup, I think will determine which platform not only is there, but also leads the entire game.
And thrive.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you for that. Are there any questions from the audience?
I would like to share one experience. Maybe that would be a next topic for your new book. All right. So we ordered a mop. Okay. Got it delivered. It was damaged and very low quality. So we requested for a replacement.
Ordered what?
A
You
mop.
have to speak a little louder.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we ordered for a replacement. Okay. Somebody came and picked up. And after some time, what we got it? The cost of the mop was the ticket of this event, 999. And what we got back was 1 Rakhi. So now I realized we should not ask for a replacement. We should ask for a refund. So what is your thought?
I mean, how did you get a Rakhi for a mop?
Bit strange.
Yeah. Anyway, I'm just sharing an anecdote. I don't have an answer for whether it's refund or replacement. But
I mentioned this in feedback in Amazon. And few days ago, you cannot write like this. You have to talk to customer. The vague answer, Amazon asking me to withdraw that feedback.
withdraw the feedback.
Feedback itself.
Okay, so there you have right in front of you an example of oppression of the customer this time, not of the seller. But just a little anecdote, since he brought up buying a broom from Amazon. So in my book, I've quoted a stand-up comic who said that, Sapan Verma is his name. He bought a broom from Amazon for 120 rupees, just a regular jadu, and he lives in Bombay. And that broom got shipped to him from Amazon's Bangalore warehouse, apparently because the Bombay warehouse didn't have it. And to much laughter, he says that somewhere there should have been an error message which just said that no, just go down to Gupta stores or something and just buy it instead of ordering it on Amazon.
Okay. Any more? I think we've time for one more. Yeah.
Really wanted to give an appreciation. Something sometimes touches one's heart. And if you find it supported with a lot of information and data and intellectually rigorous, it's really heartwarming.
Thank you so much.
And there is a question. You said matter of fairness. Yes, they're consumers and we must be fair to them. Yes, people are investing money and they should fairly be entitled to get some profit out of it. And you kept repeating the workers, the workers, the workers. I think, to my mind, that's why my heart resonated. That it is the people who are giving their days and their time. Yeah, you're not considering them as worthy of discussion in the fairness. We've just excluded, and that's why we mentioned unions. So how will we change this paradigm? That we keep talking about the business grew, it became a unicorn, it became something, it's a successful platform. How do we get the voice of, I'm talking again about the workers. And right now, with the platforms going into pure labor, the house workers that you get is not even any other supplier except the person themselves. They have no power because we consumers say we want it at the cheapest. So we are really divided as citizens, don't you think? As human beings, we prefer easy consumption. Then we realize we need to earn.
Yeah. So I kept mentioning workers because they're formal chunk of the, at least the emotions which are negative, like oppression, anxiety. That's mostly about the workers. But that is not to say that there are not other positive emotions. There are also pleasure and freedom, which the platforms have brought to women, for example, to mobility challenged people, etc. But coming to your particular question of how we can have a fairer system which includes the workers, so Mr. Maida, it's really not that we're not reinventing the wheel here. There are many models which are doing that, which have taken into account the workers, and we just don't have to do certain very oppressive things. For example, I'll give you something I heard yesterday. Apparently, when workers protest, through AI, the tech platform is able to scans the pictures of photos which come in the newspaper about strikes, etc. And they figure out who are the workers, and the next day the worker's ID gets blocked. For example, this is something that you just don't need to do to be able to allow the workers to exercise their right to protest and to, for collective bargaining, as it's called. So, and then this kind of openly oppressive things, even if the platforms stop doing, I think we'll have a slightly more level playing field.
Okay. Vandana, I think we've run out of time completely.
Sure.
So thank you all very, very much.
Thank you very much.
I request both the speaker and the host to kindly remain on the stage. Once again, thank you so much for unfolding the truth about e-commerce, a system that we are still getting to know. May I take this opportunity to please invite Mr. Xavier Prabhu, the founder of PR Hub, onto the stage to present a token of appreciation to our speakers. And yes, ladies and gentlemen, can we please put our hands together for this insightful session?